In today's episode of I Hate Everyone and Everything, and Millennials are whiny babies who can't function without someone taking care of them, we have the story about the VOX host Carlos Maza trying to get Steven Crowder banned from YouTube. Make no mistake, this is an issue of a public figure, Carlos Maza, on one of the biggest platforms in the world, VOX.com, who regularly gets over 1 million views on his videos, angry that other people talk about him and send him mean things on the internet. Listen, it doesn't matter who you are or what you believe. When you're getting 1 million views plus on your videos, congratulations, you will be harassed. I bring this up all the time, but you don't see me trying to get people banned. And it's just mind-bogglingly frustrating. So here's the thing. Crowder, should you be mocking him, calling him, certain things? I do not believe so. However, I am also not a comedian, political comedian, so I don't know where the line is. And I think if they do ban Crowder, that would be absolutely insane. At the very least, they can ask him to tone down the identity-based, impersonations. But I got to point something out. Sure, it would be fair to be like, let's kind of de-escalate this, everybody. In this story from The Verge, I kid you not, they say this: Crowder's videos routinely contain egregious violations of YouTube's policies against cyberbullying, included repeatedly referring to Maza as an anchor baby. Stop. Carlos Maza referred to himself as an anchor baby in a recent video. A lispy queer. Lispy, I think, is in combination with queer, but Carlos Maza refers to himself as a queer. And a Mexican, among other derogatory terms. What? Calling somebody a Mexican is not a derogatory term. What is this? Is that really what they're upset about? No, I think what he's really upset about is that he's getting criticism. Aw. And unfortunately for Crowder, he is flaunting the line. He does impersonate Carlos Maza and refer to him in such a way that Carlos Maza can use that against him. Listen, if Carlos is going to refer to himself as an anchor baby, he did. There's a video about, I think it's about Republicans becoming more extreme. He says that he is like, I think he calls himself an anchor baby. I could be wrong. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. But he does refer to himself in these ways. So if he can call himself that, and then you say, okay, I'll call you that, and you go, how dare you? That's hate speech. Well, what are the rules, man? So this whole thing is insane, and you're going to love this. Oh my God. So first of all, somebody doxed this guy. That is wrong. Absolutely wrong. I've criticized Carlos Maza's videos on various occasions. I never talk about him. I don't care about who he is or where he's from. I care about the information he's presenting, and I want to address the information. So first and foremost, I do disagree with Crowder in that regard, but I understand, it's political comedy, so where the line is, don't look at me. I mean, you can't have Carlos Maza refer to himself as a way and then get mad at Crowder for doing something similar. But somebody doxed him. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. But here's what blows my mind, right? So he talks about how he got a phone call, says, why do you hate? He hangs up. He couldn't even process the call before more than 100 text messages spammed his phone, all with numbers, all with the same message, debate Steven Crowder. He says, I just started blocking numbers, but my phone was basically unusable because it kept blowing up. Even when I'm writing scripts now, it's almost like looking over my shoulder thinking, is there a way to write this that will allow me to not get blowback for this? This is how I used to act in high school when I was brutally harassed for being gay. I'm still constantly looking over my shoulder. Way to use your identity as a defense. I completely disagree with that. You are not addressing the idea and the problem of doxing. You are trying to make an emotional appeal to people to use your marginalized identity to defend yourself. Wrong. Full stop. I don't care. You're not arguing any ideas. Okay, doxing you is wrong. I completely agree. But you want to talk about how to avoid getting blowback? How about you actually fact check your stories? Let's do this. I recently made a rebuttal, a bit. It was more than just his comment, his video. But he made a video called You're Watching Fox News, You Just Don't Know It. And he's got a photo of himself with his eyes bleeding. This video is insane conspiracy nonsense where he alleges that Fox News is hacking the media space and pushing stories to the forefront. Notably, the Hillary email scandal. Oh, Fox News pushed it to the forefront? I'm sorry, that story was broken by the New York Times and the Associated Press. You live in a fringe conspiracy nonsense world. So he makes videos like this that are easily fact check. Okay, when he said the Hillary email scandal wasn't really news or something to that effect, And then all of a sudden Fox News pushed it, it became news. I said, okay, let me search for this. Almost every single source I found referenced that the story was being pushed heavily by large mainstream news sources like the New York Times and the AP. They broke the stories. Washington Post picked up the story. Washington Post a year later did a big breakdown on the server scandal and the email scandal. How are you going to claim that Fox News made that happen? That is insane. So you want to talk about not getting blowback? How about you don't put out weird conspiracy nonsense where your eyes are bleeding? It's such an insane world we live in. When you have someone who's on a platform with 6 million followers, who look at this video, 1 million views. We go down here. Here's one about Tucker Carlson. 1 million views. Oh no! Imagine how much harassment Tucker Carlson got when you made that video. When people showed up to his house. You want to complain about getting text messages? You got a phone call? I went skateboarding one day and I was being threatened by a group of guys because of fake news nonsense that was published about me. You want to talk about how you're at the mall and someone started texting you? My phone at one point, when someone got my number and I changed it, wouldn't stop ringing. Yes, been there, done that. What did I do about it? I moved on because I'm an adult. You want to complain that you're at the mall and you got text messages because they want you to debate Steven Crowder. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll think about that the next time a group of people threaten me with physical violence because of the trash people like you put out. Think about this. People showed up to Tucker Carlson's house. We're banging on the door. That's illegal, okay? Political affiliation is protected in Washington, D.C. And according to Tucker, the door was cracked. His wife was hiding in the closet. Other people contest that. They said the door wasn't cracked. He's exaggerating. I don't care. People showed up to the dude's house. Okay? You want to talk about what this is insane. These people stand up on this massive platform, get over 1 million views, targeting people they don't like, pumping out nonsense, fake conspiracy nonsense. Fox News made the email scandal happen. Are you nuts? It's called the New York Times, dude. Google search it. And then they're shoveling their trash over the wall. And when someone shovels some trash back, they go, help, I'm under attack. Here's the best part. Here is the best part. My God, why are millennials such just, oh my God, it's so annoying. I read this story and I felt like, I'm like, oh my God, millennials. Not all of them. Not all. I mean, most of you guys who watch me are millennials. So at least we're not insane children. Look at this. Maza doesn't blame Crowder. There are always going to be bullies, he said. The only difference between bullies in middle school and YouTube, he argued, is having a principal or teacher step in and remove the bully from the equation entirely. They realize one side is being the aggressor, that's unacceptable, and they enforce actual penalties on the bully. In what Wally world did you grow up in? My God, this reeks of such disgusting privilege. The guy who tries to claim that he's a marginalized, figure. You want to talk about being marginalized? How about being a mixed-race high school dropout from the south side of Chicago, and you have the police kick your door with their guns drawn, looking for somebody who doesn't live there? How about getting surrounded by like 12 police vehicles, pulling you out, taking our credit card information, our passports? You want to talk about what's fair? I think it's hilarious that he wants someone to step in. You're an adult, dude. Grow up. No one's going to step in for you. You want to file a defamation suit? Go for it. We have a First Amendment in this country. But look at how they behave, like children. Why won't the principal step in? Are you in high school, dude? No, you're not. You're an adult, and in the real world, we have a legal system. And guess what? You can't just go and shut down people who are mean to you. It's funny to me when I see this complete trash. And I think my politics is perfect. Like, this really does explain my politics in a lot of ways. I grew up in Chicago. I totally get systemic racism, these injustices, and that's why my politics are like center left. I'm not left. I'm not far left. I'm just like right in the middle, leaning to the left, right? But here's the thing. I've dealt with the cruelty and the unfairness of the world. I've been homeless. I know what actually happens in public when two people are fighting. The principal doesn't step in and say, this one's clearly the bully. He says, both of you are suspended. And you say, but I was being attacked. He said, I don't care. You were fighting GTFO. I've had cops screw with me. I've had cops try and plant drugs in my car. Let's talk about what happens when you beg the authority to be fair. This is complete insane behavior. And he doubles down. So here's the original thread, where he also claims that the satirical shirt, socialism is for figs, there's even a fig on it, because he's clearly trying to make a joke, is actually a slur. But this is, he basically went on and says, YouTube doesn't care. They don't care about us. Here we go. Carlos Maza, who has terrible ideas, who publishes insane conspiracy, and does the same thing Crowder does when he targets people like Tucker Carlson. And he thinks he's above it. And then as soon as anyone points the finger back, he starts complaining that because he's a queer, he's under fire. That's the real reason. This is completely pathetic behavior. Now, I will stress, please leave the guy alone. Okay? I think he's he has me, he's a whiny child. He can't take the heat. Get out of the kitchen. He has one of the most powerful platforms in the world to espouse his message, even when it's a weird picture of him bleeding from the eyes. And in the video, he pulls blood out of his ear, and he talks about ridiculous conspiracy nonsense that makes no sense. He acts like MSNBC and CNN aren't overly partisan. They are. Even the New York Times is no longer allowing their reporters to appear on those shows. It is not Fox News. When you publish crap like this, don't be surprised when people fire back. But here we go. He says, for the record, it's been over 24 hours since I tweeted this. Every social media page I have is being bombarded. Crowder has accused me of being part of an NBC conspiracy, re-upped his harassing videos, and generally laughed this all off. Still nothing from YouTube. You can't ask these people to behave better or even apologize. YouTube incentivizes harassers to double down and continue their abuse in order to keep their followers engaged. YouTube's anti-harassment policy is meaningless if violators know they'll never lose their channels. YouTube helped Crowder build an army of engaged, aggressive fans willing to mobilize on his behalf. He is currently convincing them that I'm an NBC operative, excuse me, trying to shut him down to stifle competition. His fans believe him. YouTube created a monster it's afraid to stop. That, Carlos, is called an opinion, and people are allowed to have them. So, Steven Crowder's view is that VOX, whose valuation probably has tanked by their own reporting, right? Disney has written off everything they put in Vice. They've said their investment's a loss. In that article written by VOX, they say Comcast probably views their investment in VOX as a loss at some point, or less than it originally was. NBC put in $200 million, I believe, into VOX. And here you have a guy. How many followers does this guy have? Carlos Maza, with nearly 100,000 followers, whose videos regularly break 1 million views. Here's another one. Why you still don't understand the Green New Deal. Nearly 1 million views. And he's upset. This is the epitome of this. Like, I don't know where this guy comes from or what his deal is, but he is the snooty elitist people. Like, I can't stand these people, right? The snooty elitists who are wrong and can dish it but can't take it. Welcome to the real world, dude. Let me know, first, I will stress, nobody should be harassing people. Nobody should be messaging this guy. Nobody should be, texting him, debating anybody. That is insane nonsense. I care not for this guy's identity. I don't care where his parents came from. I don't care the circumstances in which he was born, just the content of his character. And I will tell you this, that the content of his character is shown to be less than good, to say the least. I think he pumps out hyper-partisan nonsense. Some of it's fine. I have no problem. He's allowed to have his opinion and frame things the way he wants. He made a video talking about how Republicans have become more extreme, but it conveniently stops at a certain year. There's an argument being made that Republicans don't work with Democrats anymore, and I think the issue is actually that, well, yes, the Republicans have moved slightly to the right, the Democrats have just went straight to the left. But I digress. I don't want to talk about that. The issue is, by all means, say whatever you want, put out your opinions. In this video, his latest video, which is the subject of much of the criticism, he's gone really, really off the deep end. He makes the argument that YouTube is helping engage these people, and that, he says YouTube incentivizes harassers to double down. What do you think you're doing? What do you think you are doing, Carlos? No, seriously. When you make a video where you seriously contend that Fox News controls the political narrative, don't you think you're going off the deep end? Like, you're so desperate to produce some kind of content that will grab people and engage them that you make some insane nonsense about Fox News controlling the political narrative. As if CNN, MSNBC, HLN, etc., don't exist. They do. It's completely absurd. So now you have someone standing in the kitchen. They can't take the heat. You have someone shoveling trash over the wall, and they freak out when it comes right back at them. And you have someone whose only defense of their bad ideas is, I'm being harassed because I'm gay. That's it. You can't use that as an argument. You can't use that as a defense. It says nothing about your ideas. And trying to get Steven Crowder banned because people don't like you is absurd. We do have a serious problem with the internet, and I don't know what you call it, but man, when crowds get angry and start just targeting you and harassing you, it can get really bad. And I've actually had to talk with police departments about threats of security and things like this, and protect my home and my friends because of how bad it's gotten. I don't know if anyone's ever physically threatened Carlos Maza. That would be an egregious violation of any social norm and law, and it should never happen. In fact, Carlos is welcome to sit down for tea and crumpets with me or, and my friends at any point, and we will make sure that no one ever insults him for who he is or any of these things. But I'll tell you what, I will criticize you for your work, and that's something you should expect. And I will be fair. I believe Carlos would recognize that too. I think if you remove the mocking him and his lisp and the way he speaks, he wouldn't really have anything else to say. I think he would agree with that. Fine, he's being criticized. What can you do about it? However, the fact that he's latching onto that to go after Crowder, I'm sorry, dude. People are mean. I get made fun of all the time. People are posting fake photos about me. People pull things out of context. They pull quotes out of context. And because of this, I get threats of violence. I get confronted by people in the street. I can't even go skateboarding. I mostly can, right? It happened one time. The point I'm trying to make is I have gone out into the world and I have had people threaten me. Yep. Does that happen to you? Maybe. It's wrong. It shouldn't happen. But it's absolutely insane that I've had people like alt-right people just drag and rag on me as being like a disgusting mixed race, all of this other nonsense. I don't care. You can call me whatever you want, dude. I'm an adult. Sticks and stones, man. Sticks and stones. So ultimately, Steven Crowder did issue a response. I'm actually concerned they might actually ban him. Seriously. Because he's made a ton of videos rebutting these strike-through videos. And yes, Steven mocks Carlos Maza personally, but in his imitation calls him names and refers to him in such ways that I think the appropriate response from YouTube would be to say something like, for the sake of simmering things down, don't call him, names. Target his ideas. That's what Crowder mostly does. He criticizes the video, but he mocks Carlos as an individual. The thing is, you're allowed to mock someone. You're allowed to imitate them. You're allowed to, you're allowed to. Especially on YouTube, you're allowed to do it. Crowder is a political commentary show, and Crowder is commenting on a channel that is almost twice the size of his. Is this Crowder punching up or punching down? In fact, I would say it is two high-level public platforms having a disagreement. Crowder put himself in a weakened position because this guy's weaponizing his identity. That's wrong. Carlos shouldn't do that. It's just, look, it's going to happen. Should Crowder be banned? 100% absolutely not. But I think Crowder should probably try and, be more careful. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, and they're going to say, no way, it's not fair. But you know what, man? You don't earn points by doing the mockery and stuff like that. I was thinking about what differentiates people in like the intellectual dark web from other political commentators. And I think one of the big issues is not targeting someone's identity for humiliation or mocking the way they speak. Like, why is Ben Shapiro intellectual dark web and the Weinsteins, they disagree on a lot of things. And I think it's because maybe Ben Shapiro has, but more recently, I recognize the guy's been in politics for a long time, but does he make fun of people and insult them and say names about them? Like, sometimes I think he kind of does, and that's why I'm interested in Ben Shapiro. But you look at a lot of these IDW types, they don't. There are a lot of people. I think Sargon, if you're familiar with Sargon of Akkad, he used to very much so insult and attack, and make fun of people, ridicule them, and it was a big thing that we saw from a lot of political commentators as political YouTube started getting more prominent. And I noticed that I completely disagree with it. Because for me, I would absolutely have I sat down, we did a live stream. I did a live stream with David Pacman, and we had a very great conversation. I try, when I have conversations and when I disagree with people, I try to make sure that we're not playing silly games and we can break through some of the tribal walls. So, David was criticizing a lot of my YouTube content, and absolutely, by all means, please do. Criticize me. I will answer to any question. I will try and give you my view and my justification of, why I do what I do. Certainly, we all think we're the heroes of our own story, and that's what we should be doing. I understand that Crowder is trying to make people laugh, though, and he uses politics. So if we're looking at it's a really interesting situation. Two very high-profile personalities, and one is saying, because of my identity, this guy should be banned. YouTube, I'm being harassed. That's when I'm like, wow, you've lost the argument, have you? Crowder might be a mean guy. Let's say this. I guess what I should say is I don't think Crowder should do this because it's mean, right? But that's just me. I'm not saying he shouldn't be allowed to do it. But it's an issue of this guy's really mad that Crowder's mean to him. You can't blame people who don't like Carlos for Crowder. You know, if Crowder wants to criticize Carlos, he's allowed to. I'm allowed to. Anyone's allowed to. And if somebody who watches, goes nuts, like, how is that my fault? How is that Crowder's fault? We've both, as well as many other people, repeatedly condemned all of this bad behavior, harassment, identity attacks. We've all condemned it, right? Crowder uses it to make fun, but we're in this area now where it's like there are some people who think they're above being criticized. So I'm going to put it this way. How many followers do I have in this channel? Like 380,000 subs. I've got 467,000 on my main channel. We've got 122-ish on Subverse. I collectively am close to breaking 1 million subs across my social media, but I do have a big Twitter following. Carlos has a decent Twitter following, nearly 100,000, and access to 600 million subscribers on VOX, and he routinely breaks 1 million views. I do not. Carlos is getting 10 times the viewership I do. 10 times. Why does it matter if we're punching up or punching down? Carlos is free to criticize me all day and all night. He won't, though. His show is too big to criticize me. It would be a waste of his time and a waste for his audience. But when it comes to Crowder and Carlos, they're on an somewhat equal footing. So my advice to Carlos would be to, and I mean this literally, grow up, okay? And I'm not saying that as like a silly thing, like quite literally. You're asking for a principal or teacher to step in. No, you're an adult. And this is how the real world functions. And I think there are so many young people who just don't seem to get it. No one is going to come and save you. And that's why, my God, what a ridiculous thing to say. I want you to go to Hawaii like that woman who fell 20 feet and broke her leg. I want you to go into the wilderness. Let me do this. Imagine you're in the woods. You're 100 miles from any civilization. You're walking, you've got a rifle, you've got a small bag with food, and you've got a small satchel you got a small little, thermos or something holding water. You have no idea where any city is. Off in the distance, you notice another person. Looks exactly the same as you. They got a gun. They got what looks like they're carrying food and a thermos. What do? Do you wave? Hey, another person. What happens if they don't speak English? And you shout, and all they hear is glarblegla. Now they're scared. Oh, what do? Do you assume you can just walk up and shake their hand? Are you concerned they might shoot you if they have a gun? Do you draw first? What if you draw, they'll draw? How do you handle that situation? Welcome to the real world. No principal will step in and say, guys, please don't fight. If you don't defend yourself and prepare yourself, that person might say, you know what? There's no food anywhere. That guy's got food. It's me or him. That person might also be thinking, wow, this other person might help save my life if we team up. You have no idea. What do? Do you cross your fingers and hope that the teacher will come down into the forest and say, let me guide you, my children? No. It's called being an adult and realizing the world is dangerous and unfair, and that's not how it works. But think about the mentality of these people who grow up in a world where everything is done for them. Look at this mentality. This is what separates, I think, me from many of the people on the left. It's a big factor. Being a high school dropout and being homeless, my politics didn't change, my opinions didn't change. I grew up in a city. But it also means I recognize there is no principle. Life isn't fair. And even when there is an authority, they will not do what you want. This is also a good representation of how this man, Carlos, is an authoritarian. He defers to the authority to solve his problems. I don't. I'm an anti-authoritarian. In fact, even though I recognize there is legitimate authority, I'm still extremely, I question it, I push back on it, I challenge it. You must prove your authority. You must show why you have it. Here's a guy who says, why won't YouTube do this for me? Sorry. Welcome to the real world. I'm going to stop ranting. This thing's mind-blowing and makes me really angry, but thanks for hanging out in this 25-minute long video. I will have another segment coming up at 1 p.m. youtube.com/timcast. For those on the podcast, it will begin shortly, although I do rearrange the podcast depending on the various segments. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all in the next segment.